Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by and welcome to the third in the series of these looking at the plants, the sort of elaborated version of one shelf at a time sort of thing. There is a change of plan coming up. I'm hoping that in this video I will do the rest of what I'm calling the random orchids, the ones that don't fall into a specific category or anything like that. And that's what these three will be. But then what I plan to do is my cooler, shadier orchids, which is Restrepias, Masdevallias, my Odontoglossums, that sort of thing. I'm going to do them as a separate video. Yeah, so those will be self-contained. I've also got the Phalaenopsis in the kitchen, which I will do as a separate video, and the Cymbidiums, which I will do as a separate video. So we will end up with 6 in the series, and then the idea is in 3 months' time we'll come back and we'll revisit each plant, hopefully in the same order as the original video. That might take a bit of doing. They may have moved by then, they might not be in the same place. Nonetheless, that's for me to sort out. And then we'll have a look at how we graded them this time and what's happened to them in 3 months. 3 months of what is basically the growing season. You know, hopefully my goal is to get as many Bs up into the As and some of the Cs up into Bs and not down into the Xs. And possibly the few that went into the X category might still be with us, although that category really is for failing orchids that may not be. So that's the plan, and today's video carries on with the watering theme and getting through the rest of the orchids. So basically we've moved from the back of the grow room to basically this long side of the grow room now, which has a very, very busy shelf. It has a few in flower, oddities, and then most of the rest of the cooler, shadier ones. I'm going to do my Coelogenes as a separate set as well, so there'll be 7. The reason being, I've actually got quite a few nowadays. There's enough there to call, you know, a set, or I believe there is anyway. So we'll do the Coelogenes as a separate one as well. Strictly speaking, they would come into the cooler, shadier category anyway. But that's already quite busy, there's still quite a few in there. So yeah, we'll probably do the Coelogenes as a separate one as well. I may change my mind and tag them on the end of this one. They do sort of, I'll be going along these shelves, they are the end of that shelf, so we may add them on here, in which case they won't be a separate set. Anyway, let's get going, same as before. I'll be picking up each plant, have a quick look at it, give it a category and then water it and move on to the next one. So let's get going. Right, so we're starting off with this one. This is Black Comet. I know this might seem daft to some people, but this can only get a B. It's only got a single bulb with 2 leaves and then some back bulbs. It's a very young plant, technically speaking. Probably a division, but it may have been grown on from a seed, but it's come into bloom for the first time. There's no sign of new growths yet. It does have a reasonable root system, all from the front end of the plant. If you come round the back of the plant, we've got no roots at all. So we'll give that a B, and hopefully it'll progress up to a C during the growing season, so we should get new growths and that after it's finished blooming. That should be okay. Now in this video I've got a bit farther to walk each time. That's that one. Next one over here is the last of the Paphiopedilums, and the reason it wasn't with the rest of them is because it's in bloom, so it was over on the blooming bench effectively. This is Appletonianum, and this is still wet. Now this is one that obviously using the sprayer the plant was not using the water. So me going round with the sprayer like that hasn't done this one any good, because it'll now miss out on a feed run. But then it's not really growing much. At the end of the day, you know, the latest growth has come into bloom, it's got its flower, it's opened its flower, and until that bloom drops, I doubt if we'll see a new growth. So missing its feed run is not a good idea. Because that is such a young plant, first time blooming, I suspect that'll be a B. It's not bad, you know, I mean, it's not going downhill or anything, but it's not a full-blown plant yet. And then we've got the other black comet type thing, and this is effectively Magic's, oh, I forget what it's called now. Oh, no, I'm not doing pop-ups. It's basically a cross. It's Encyclia green hornet crossed with Epidendrum miva etoile, and it has been registered. I do know what it is. First time blooming for me, not a bad plant at all. I suspect we will see at least one new growth from here. I would hope for two. It's got back bulbs with leaves. The very oldest bulbs are starting to get tatty leaves. They will probably drop. But I'm going to give that one an A. Yeah, I suppose we better actually do some watering. This one hasn't actually been repotted yet. It's still in the media it was in when I got it. So it will need a repot at some time, but the bark it's in seems reasonable quality. Right, now we're on to the I'll do the hibiki first. It's on the shelf on its own at the moment. It needs a little bit more shade than some of the stuff above it. This is probably the best hibiki I've ever grown. It is growing well it's growing sideways basically. There's very few of the canes that have decided to be upright. They're all hanging over the side, but nonetheless it's growing very well. It's also recently pushed roots down in the pot. Up until recently the roots have all been gathered around the top and not got down into the pot. Now they are getting down into the pot. I suspect this might start growing even better because it's now got a bigger root system than it had before. It does grow kikis, but you know, that's an A. There's no doubt about that one. That's an A. Let's hope we don't lose it, because in the past I've had some, I think this is my fourth hibiki, and in the past I've had some wonderful hibikis that have just gone over. They just suddenly keeled over. So we'll put that one back where we got it from. And in fact I might do the same with the others. As I bring one across I'll take one back. Right, we're on to Oncidium types now. This is Tahitian Dancer. This actually got Best Oncidium in Show at the Wessex Orchid Society show. It's still only going to get a B. We're looking at the plant now, not the blooms. And the plant is okay, but it's not brilliant. It's okay. This in the old days suffered really badly with scale, so to have got it to recover and push up two new growths, both of which bloomed, I'm pleased with it. But as a plant, it needs to grow some more new growths and get a better root system. It's got some roots from those new growths, but not a lot. So I'm going to give it a B. And as I said, don't forget we're grading the plant, not the blooms. The blooms were good. It's two good spikes, which means the plant has progressed a lot. So that's that one. As I say, what I'll do now is as I bring one over, I'll take one back. Otherwise we're not going to fit on the shelf, because there are some biggies over here. Right, what have we got here then? A big pot full with a very faded. This one is just on the tag, it's got Cambria hybrid in brackets. Well, yes. And then in brackets again, it's got shades of purple so that I know what this is. And the blooms on this are very, very nice. Now, as a plant, it's improving. I won't say it's improved to its peak, but it's improving. The more recent bulbs are plumper and bigger than before, but one of them wasn't. And now we have a nice strong new growth coming out here, and we have another rather weak one coming out from the back of the plant, which is odd. So yeah, I can only give it a B. And as far as roots are concerned, it has some. I wouldn't say it's got a good root system, but it's got some. So yeah, room for improvement. And hopefully we will get some of that during this year. This year, this plant and the previous one will be getting a bit more light than before. Put one back. And now we've got lots of little ones. These you probably haven't seen, and I don't know what they are. They could be twinkles. And in fact, they probably are twinkles. But that's not growing very well at all, whatever it is, and I don't know what it is. So that can only get a C. It's barely alive. It does have a new growth, doesn't have very good roots, and it's in a position where with these Oncidiums that look like this, you often get a new growth and you think, oh great, it's going to make it, and then the new growth just collapses, it just rots off. So that may happen. Right, and then we've got another one, same category, yeah, unknown what it is. This one, the latest growth, has actually produced some roots. It's got another new growth coming here and another one down there. So this one is attempting to grow and produce some roots. It would be nice if I knew what it was, but I don't. But I can't give it a B, I can still only give it a C. Because those new growths are on a very weak plant, so they're not going to get any backup. They've only got their, the few leaves on the older bulbs and a few very old tired roots. They haven't got resources to work with, and they're still a bit small to be doing much in the way of photosynthesizing, so they may not grow. And then we've got, now this one's actually got a tag, and this is Oncidium chirophorum. Now this one is growing quite well, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4 new growths, but the rest of the plant looks a mess. We do have some roots. It is a miniature, so those are the size of the bulb, so I'm going to give that a B. Probably the only one of this in this small Oncidium set that's capable of having a B. But it's got enough roots to be able to work with, and 4 new growths, 2 of which are pushing on quite well. So that one should be okay. Should be, we say. Right, so now we're getting on to oddities. These are kikis of Dendrobium signatum, and I've only ever had these as kikis. I don't remember ever having the plant. I might have done once, but the kikis are doing okay. We do have some roots down into the pot. They're in moss, but there is no sign of new growths from the base yet. I'll say yet, we might never get any. But as kikis, I'm only going to give them a C. So that's Dendrobium signatum kikis. As I said, I'm only going to give those a C because they still might not make it. Right, there's quite a few kikis in this area. Now this is a pretty special kiki. I hope it makes it. This is Dendrobium friedrichianum Hanna. So it's a kiki of my awarded plant. Given that the awarded plant I believe is dead, if this doesn't make it, I've lost that plant. And it can never exist again. So we hope this makes it. There's no sign of growth from the base yet, but it does have roots and it has some green leaves. It might make it, but it's going to get a C nonetheless. Right, now this is Dendrobium spectabile, recently repotted out of a giant pot into a small pot. And this little growth down there, I can see the roots starting to grow. So we may get this one to grow. It's got a little cluster of tiny little weak new growths, but they have got leaves and they are starting to produce some roots. And being in a much smaller pot, it now doesn't stay soaking wet. It's only going to get a triple. Hasn't got enough roots to warrant soaking the pot. We'll give it a C. It's not doing well enough to get a B. Yeah, we can have a C. Let's get some of these back over here. They're not going back where they came from, they're going back on the lower shelf. Otherwise I shall get in my own way eventually. And then we've got this one, which is another recent repot, non-bloomer, and this is Dendrobium Aussie's Sweetness crossed with Tepinense. It's not a bad plant, but it hasn't bloomed yet. Maybe this stonking new growth here will do the trick, because I believe this hasn't reached blooming size yet. But I think it will now. I mean, every one of these canes that I've grown has got a sheath at the top, and I thought, this time it's going to bloom, and it still hasn't. So maybe this latest one will. But that went into bark, basically Latoria type, so shouldn't get cold and therefore mustn't stay wet in my cooler winter temperatures. So it's got reasonable roots. Quite honestly, I'm going to have to give that an A. I mean, it's a good plant as Latoria types go. It's got leaves on 4 canes and a lovely strong new growth. Leaves on 5 canes actually. It's got leaves on the big one there. So yeah, we'll give that an A. Not dishing out many of them today, I can tell. Right, let's get this big one out of the way. A couple of big ones and I can see what I'm doing over here. Right, this is the Shelob, I believe. Where's my tag gone? Yes, it's got Shelob Tolkien on the tag, but it's not. It's Shelob Marie, and it's not a bad plant. New growth, new growth, new growth, new growth. So the 2 new growths from before that both bloomed have each produced 2 new growths. So where there were 2, there are now 4. Therefore it's doubled in size. Those new growths are pushing out roots. We have a pot full of roots, and despite having a yellow leaf there, these are old leaves, you know, they do go eventually. I'm going to give it an A. It's growing well, and if we get 4 spikes and consecutive spikes on that, that will be quite a show. So yeah, we'll give that one an A as well. Get some good feed into it with those 4 new growths. If that doesn't get resources, then it will use the resources from the older part of the plant, and those nice big old plump bulbs, some of which are leafless now, will start shrivelling. but if there's enough resources get into the plant, they will stay plump. Next, what we got here then? This is Oncidium Barocco. This was one of those, I'd been to Burnham's. When I go to Burnham's, I cannot walk out empty-handed. It would be rude, given how long I've known Sarah and some favours that she's done me. So I always buy something. And this had 6 spikes on it. So I thought, well, we'll have that then. And the blooms lasted quite a long time. It did well. But what we've got now are new growths just starting. So we've got a new growth here and a new one here and a new one here. I didn't notice that one last time. So at the moment we have 3 new growths. Now the 2 previous growths produced a lot of spikes. So I wonder what these 3 will do. The older bulbs are a bit shriveled. There's room for improvement on the size of the bulbs and the plumpness. So we'll give it a B, but it's doing okay. Hasn't been repotted yet. I think now might be a good time to get that done. But the thing is, I don't think it's, the media it's in, I don't think it's bad. The problem is that it came from Burnham's, it was bought in, I haven't been told that, I'm guessing, because that's where a lot of these sort of come from. Therefore it probably wasn't potted by anyone at Burnham's, so underneath that bark on the surface there could be anything. So it's still worth having a look at. So B. This is Berryoda Kikis. Somebody gave a Kiki to Hannah at the Wessex Orchid Society show, despite her saying that she can't keep dendrobiums, and it promptly grew a nice Kiki with loads of roots. It hasn't got anything growing from the base yet. It's a very young, not very strong plant, basically. It may grow on. I mean, if it is the real thing, Berryoda, which I doubt very much, it'll be a hybrid. Finding the real Berryoda nowadays is quite difficult. It's been hybridised so much, and it's variable. It is quite variable, both in plant size, slight changes in growth habit, and worst of all, the flowers can be from almost white to quite dark pink. So will the real Berryoda, oh hang on, I'm talking cobblers, I'm thinking of Kingianum, the actual one of the parents. Infinitely variable. Berryoda is a standard cross. Take all that, rewind that lot and erase. It's Berryoda. My head was thinking Kingianum. Even the Aussies have trouble spotting the real one nowadays. That is a known hybrid, so that one's okay. We give it a B. Only just though. Only just. Right, let's get this big one out of the way, then the rest of the shelf will be a bit clearer then. Another monster. Now, this one's a strange one. Oh, this was a big, huge plant when I got it, and since then it's produced new growths. When I repotted it, I split it, and the other half, the other piece, smaller piece, died. This piece didn't, it grew on. Now it looks awful because of all those sheaths. If I could get at all of those and take them off, at least it would look like a green plant. But the new growths that it's put up are nowhere near as big and strong as previous growths. They don't get as big. So technically this plant is going backwards, it's going downhill. So it's going to get a B. If I didn't say it's Sherry Baby. It's just not growing as well as it should. I mean, it's got some new growths and, you know, it's got some roots, but it's not progressing. It is possibly even going backwards, but we'll give it a B for now. That could end up being a C. by the next time we look at it. We shall see. I'm hoping B's become A's, not go backwards. But, difficult to tell. Right, another pot full of kikis. It's a pot full of kikis that's either going to grow some more kikis or come into bloom, one or the other. Difficult to tell. There's a nubbin over here on this cane as well. These were kikis taken off of a giant nobly type Dendrobium and potted up separately. I've got a feeling some of these might have gone to Carol as well. She might have had some of these. I've got a pot full of roots here, and I've got some nice strong leaved kikis that haven't started growing from the base yet. Nonetheless, they look good and they've got roots, so we'll give them a B on the grounds that they're doing okay. They're doing okay. I can't. Yeah, I think it's a no ID hybrid, but it's a nobly type anyway. Growing kikis like that, it probably couldn't be much else, could it? Right, so this is Dendrobium prima donna, very recently repotted, and we need growths from the base. On cue, we have a growth from the base, so it is coming back into growth. See, now strictly speaking, that should have done that 4 or 5 weeks ago. It's late again. So the chances are, you know, that cane might not get as large as this one, the last one I produced. But it's been repotted, it's got plenty of roots, and it's coming back into the growth. And it's a nobly that I have had so many years I've lost count. I might have had that 8, 9 years, and it's been split many, many times. Others have had pieces of it. Once upon a time it got best hybrid in show. That was when it was at its largest before I split it. And it had an absolute mass blooming that year as well. But it's a plant that always does well for me. And as a nobly, it's got 2 leaved canes. It's had some canes removed so that it's a balanced plant, and it's going to get an A. It's coming into growth, it's got roots, it's doing fine. So that's that one. Now we've got this. What is this? What is that? With no tag. It looks like a Latoria type. Oh, do you know, I haven't got a clue what that is. Why has that not got a tag? That's obviously something that's been very recently repotted, but I don't know what it is. Yeah, it looks like Spectabile. I wonder if, did Spectabile get split into 2? It's 2 separate pots. I can't remember. Whatever it is, it's got no growth from the base, and it's got very, very few roots. So it can only be a B, room for improvement. Whatever it is. Good when you've got plants, you haven't got a clue what they are. Right, what have we got here then? This is Dendrobium banana chocolate. This is my only Phalaenopsis type. Basically they don't do well for me, it's too cold in the winter. But this one has grown 2 nice new canes, and this old cane here has got a flower spike on it. The flowers on this, despite their exotic name, banana chocolate, they're not actually that spectacular. It was one that I got, I think this came from Jeff Hands. It's got roots. Latest canes have produced a mass of roots down here. It could probably do with a repot, but again, being a warm grower, I have to keep this dry in the winter, so the smaller the pot the better. We give it a B. It could do better, but it probably never will because it's not warm enough here. You know, this would do well at 27, 28 degrees centigrade daytime temperatures all year round. It would be happy. and obviously I can't provide anywhere near that. So it's never going to be happy in the winter. It will always go backwards and then hopefully come forwards a little bit again in the summertime. Right, what have we got here? This is a Dendrobium hybrid. Is this the one that all the kikis came off of? It's obviously a nobly type. This could be the one that all the kikis came off of. Maybe, I can't remember. But as a nobly, it's the one that got the canes eaten. I was just saying, as a nobly, the canes aren't. These canes were huge. They were much, much bigger than this, and something chewed into them, and they failed at the chewing in points. Nothing's happened since, so whatever it was has cleared off somewhere else. It's got roots, and hopefully it will start growing from the base soon, but it's not doing it yet. Nobly type, big flowers, and room for improvement. We'll give it a B. But it's not its own fault. If those canes hadn't been chewed, probably could have given this an A. Apart from the fact it's a late start getting going. But it's got some roots. It should grow on okay. Ugh. And then the last one over here is another monster. And this is Sweet Pinky Momoko. Again, a nobly type, large, got roots, and still not growing from the base yet. It's had quite a few canes taken off. It's a relatively recent repot, and a lot of the roots are old and tired. So this needs new growths to produce new roots, which hopefully it will do. It's a strong plant, but it's not doing it yet. So it can only have a B. And needs to get going a bit. And it's only going to get a trickle of water near the top where the roots are, because the bottom's still wet. So that's that one. Now the next shelf is nearly all cotyledons, but there's a couple that aren't, that I've got to try and get at. I've got to do a little bit of shuffling now, which is off camera. I've got stuff all over the place. It'll take me a while to put everything back where it goes. But I'm just getting I've got a row of cotyledons along the front here that I need to move to get at the two behind. And then that will be the last two. Yes. So, while I have a think. Right, so here, let me just get rid of one of these big ones. Got room to move, room to see. Now this is probably radiata, yes. So Prosthetia radiata, probably renamed something else now, Guarachia or something like that. This came from Derek. This is one of Derek's plants, the only large plant that came from Derek. It's producing new growths in several places. It's growing on quite nicely. In fact, I can see 3 new growths starting. So that's a progress. And in addition to that, down in the previous new growths are sheaths. They stay like that for some time, and then they decide to push on at a later date and get the flower spikes going. It's got good roots. Came out of the pot it was in from Derek relatively recently, and it's growing well. But it has got room for improvement. The improvement will be that all of these new growths achieve this sort of size. Yeah, this is the latest growth, the largest. And if the new growths that are coming now do that, then it can go up to an A, but at the moment we'll give it a B. Aren't I harsh? Well, this is only internal grading. It's just so that we've got something to work with next time we have a mass look at the plants, which is what this is, you know, where we look at an awful lot of plants and they all get a quick look. But it's detailed enough for you to, you know, be able to see what's going on. And then we have another monster up here. And this is in the Prosthetia set, but this is one that's got yet another name in amongst that set. And this is Oncidium, and it's Pachycephalum. And this one came from Jeff Hans, and I grabbed it because it didn't look a bad plant, even though I'd never heard of it. And I've just noticed the first bloom has opened round here. I will try and get that near the camera. It has a strange, as Prosthetias go, it is an upside down orchid, sort of, but it's only semi upside down. You'll see what I mean if I can get a close up. But the blooms are spread out on the spikes. You do get a lot of blooms. I mean, if you look at this one over here, there's a lot of buds. And then this one's got quite a lot of buds as well. There's another one buried down in there, a little one. There's another one somewhere. I thought there was 4. Possibly not. But as a plant, it grows pretty well, and it does roots. It likes doing roots. And it's doing roots at the moment on this lovely big fat growth with the big spike on the top over the pot. And it's growing a new growth. This is one of those plants that's always doing everything. There's a huge new growth coming up in the middle there. There's obviously a new growth coming up there. There's another new growth here coming out the side, that big plump bulb. It's coming into bloom, and it's doing roots. It's doing everything. You couldn't ask for much more from an orchid, can you? It's an A+. It's just a good plant. It doesn't get any help from me. I chuck water and feed at it when I get the chance, and it just grows well. But it is outgrowing its pot now. This is the last lot of blooming that I can get away with it being in this pot. So we'll have to think about what we're going to do with it. But it's just a good plant. It just does well for me. Especially being a species as well. Species are often a bit finicky. This one certainly isn't. It just grows well. But we are going to sacrifice a set of roots on that nice plump bulb because they are over the edge of the pot now. So they certainly won't do as well as if they were in the pot. So that's a good one, doing well. The fact that that's in bloom, that can come over on the blooming table now, rather than go back where it came from. I am running out of room. Let's put that down there and sit there for a minute, because the rest of that shelf is Coelogenes. That's Coelochadia, as is that. There's a couple of oddities at the back of this shelf that we will look at that probably won't be here next time round. So, this is Dendrobium tetragonum, and it won't grow. Grew a new growth a while ago. The leaves it's got are failing. It's got no new growths at the base and not a very good root system. So that gets a C. That may not be here next time round. Just doesn't seem to want to grow, that one. It's on the rescue shelf, so it's in the right place. There's a couple more over here as well. Now this is Dendrobium tortilli, kikis, and these are starting to grow from the base. Yeah? So it's going to get a C because it's in a bit of a sorry state. The mother plant was lost, which was a shame. But these look like they're going to grow on with new growth from the base. Hopefully that will produce some more roots and we can get something going from that one. So that's a rescue that looks like it's working, but still a C nonetheless. And then we've got this. I haven't got a clue what this is apart from the fact it's a cattleya. It was on a mount It's done nothing for years. Scale took that one. It did have pseudobulbs and leaves like, you know, sort of 9 inches. Those were the last 2 little growths that had a few roots, and I thought the plant's failing, so we'll take it off and see if we can start a new growth in a little pot. And we haven't. It's just been sat there doing nothing for an incredibly long time. And it's nearly up to the point where I'm fed up with looking at it, but not quite. So that's definitely a C. C minus. And then these we saw relatively recently. These are the Kaneko kikis, rescued from the mother plant that was dumped before your very eyes. And the pot's still wet, so I'm not going to water and feed that as it stands. It needs the roots to grow on, which hopefully they will, and then it needs some new growths from the base. The fact that it's come from a Dendrobium that does form kikis, it might produce kikis rather than new growths from the base. We will have to wait and see, but at the moment it does have green tips. They're not, they are, I mean, that one is actively growing, it's got a new leaf. So we can watch to see if this stalls or progresses because of that tiny little new leaf there. But it can only be a C, it's a rescue. And then all the rest on that shelf are cooler shadiers. So that's it for this one. Quite an assortment there, quite an assortment. But we did get some Oncidium types and intergenerics in there, some different types of Dendrobiums, Prosthetias, or whatever that one was. I've only just said it and I can't remember. So, and some Nobiles, yeah, quite a mix in amongst that little lot. So, yeah, that'll be a good one to revisit one day, 3 months-ish time. So, that's the end of the mixes, the ones that are an assortment as I go around the shelves. The cooler shadier set, which I will do as a separate video, are actually a mixture. There is quite a bit in there. And what have we got? 5, 10, 11, 15. So, yeah, there's only about 20 in that cooler shadier set, if I include the cotyledons, so we may do them all together. But that's to come, not now. And this video, although it's been filmed today, is not going to get shown for a while, so I have no clue when this is going to get posted. It could even be next week, because I don't want these all butted up together. They're too samey, so we need some variety in between. Anyway, that's that one done, and hope you enjoy these, quick look at plants, quick chat about how they are doing and what I'd expect to come from them, and then grading them accordingly. And I've now got to go and update my notes and remember what I've said. Do you think I'm going to do that? No. What I will do is load the video up and play it back, and then update my notes. What do you think I am, daft? Careful how you answer that. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.